Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of menu and facility design, or menu and restaurant design. Today, we're going to be looking at menu psychology. So how we're going to break down is that we will review real quickly what we looked at last week, which will kind of segue us into what we look at this week. We will ask the question, what concept will you be? So on your major assignment that you will be completing, you have to come up with your own concept. So this will just give you a little bit of info on maybe how you want to start asking yourself that question. We'll also look at menu mechanics, the layout and the format, the power of signature items, the power of print, and the power of imagery. Last week in review, we looked at what are commercial and non-commercial operations. Now, while both of those do serve a lot of food and beverage, and non-commercial might actually bring in more revenue or be a larger entity, commercial operations, the difference between the two is that it's their purpose to maximize profit through the sale of food and beverage, versus the non-commercials where they already have another business or their main purpose is another form of revenue, but they might serve some food and beverage within that, whether it's just to supply nutrition to their workers or that people are there 8, 9, 10 hours on a workday and just need to eat. We also looked at a little bit of what is the breakdowns. So what are the 3 basic commercial categories? Are mostly independents, chains, and franchises, and they can be a mixture of all these different styles, as well as non-commercial and where we often see a non-commercial food and beverage operation. When you're thinking of where you might work one day, either of these could be a place that you can find a very good career. And then we looked into franchises, which are more and more popular every day, and essentially how some of these franchises can operate. So independence is probably the most common ways that most restaurants start. As they become more popular or you start building more independents, what happens is sometimes these create chains. So McDonald's only ever started as a single restaurant, and then it blew up and blew up and blew up until now it's a large chain. And that's the same way with the majority of all restaurant chains. And then also franchises, as I just said, and the different ways that you can be a single franchise, a multi-franchiser, or a master franchisee. So when we think about what our concept's going to be, the second or the first assignment should have really given you an idea of what Friday Harbor is and what kind of people might go there. This next assignment coming up that you'll be completing on week 3 will really help you dictate what is your concept that you are going to be. So a couple things that we realized about Friday Harbor Resort is that it is a marine resort. So it's on the water, lots of water activities. There's a golf course in a nature park. So 33% of the resort is nature trails. There's an 18-hole golf course. It's currently home to a couple restaurants and a few smaller places. And then as well as we have predominantly a Canadian resident with some small amounts of Italian, Asian, and European there. You must be financially strong, educated, and typically they have active lifestyles, and the majority of them are families or empty nesters. Or they were families who have since, the kids have flown the nest, left the coop. Next thing we talk about is menu mechanics. So most menus are set up this way: appetizers, soups and salads, entrees, side dishes, and desserts. Now, these mains could have a bunch of different titles and how they break it apart, but you often see your appetizers or your starters. These are small in portion, they're typically sharp in taste, and they try to limit these to a single cooking process. So it's baked once or it's put in a deep fryer once, but it's not done a couple times. Soups and salads are usually hot or cold options. They are typically quick to prepare. You can offer different styles, so a cream-based soup and broth-based. And salads can come in accompaniment sizes, which is a small side, or they can come in entree sizes, so large and could be your full meal. Entrees cover all the main course options, and as I said, depending on what your concept is, you might break it apart in a bunch of different titles or headings. So it could be your steaks or your chicken and ribs or seafood, sandwiches, pizzas, so on. This is typically the biggest draw Usually your signature dishes, which we'll speak about here shortly, comes from an entree. Not always, but mostly. Side dishes is the miscellaneous upsell, we call it, and this is often where some of the best profits can be made at a restaurant, selling those side veg, potatoes, starches, add-on sauces, add-on shrimps or chicken onto pizza that maybe didn't have it before. This is usually where restaurants do very well in. So ensuring that your serving staff, assuming you are a manager, knows how to upsell, or you have competitions based around it, will be great for you as a restaurant concept. And then desserts. This is the easiest add-on to obtain. You should have some healthy options as well, and this definitely requires suggestive selling and typically its own menu. So what often happens is that appetizers, soup, salads, entrees, and side dishes or add-ons are all on one menu, and the dessert is its own standalone menu, just as is a wine list perhaps, or a beverage menu. So how we determine our menu item selection, we usually try to balance our proteins, which means that, even though you may be a steak house, you want to have a seafood dish, a chicken dish, maybe a pork dish, a vegetarian dish. So it's not all just steak. You want to vary your cooking styles because this also not only allows people to order different styles of food, but it really kind of ensures that your kitchen doesn't get too loaded down on a single piece of equipment. You typically start building with your entree, and then you complement it with the sides. You balance your production, keep it simple. So steak, veg, potato, easy. We know what it comes with, and the cooking processes we know as well. And then we need to understand that signature items sell. So here's an idea of some of the signature items that are out there. McDonald's is the Big Mac and the keg is prime rib. Eastside Mario's. Now, this is something that sometimes a signature dish is not chosen by the actual company itself or the restaurant, but by the customer. And you want to kind of avoid this because you want to choose what your signature dish, which means what are you known for, what's most popular. Eastside Mario's has become known for unlimited Caesar salad and bread. When you think about that, you don't make any money on unlimited Caesar salad and bread. People fill up on it, they order less food, and this is a situation where Eastside Mario's hopes or wishes that they didn't have this unlimited Caesar salad or bread. But now that they are known for it, they can't get rid of it. So that's one of those things that it doesn't really work well for them. The Dairy Queen is a Blizzard, the Burger King is the Whopper, Swiss Chalet is the quarter chicken dinner, or their signature sauce. I forget what it's called exactly, but they have like a chicken sauce. English pubs usually have like a shepherd's pie or fish and chips that they're known for. Tim Hortons, double-double. It's in the dictionary now. A double-double is the signature way that a lot of Canadians order their coffee, which I think is gross. Couple neat things that we just need to know. It was discovered that customers on average only spend 109 seconds reading a menu, and that 60 to 70% of your sales will come from less than 18 to 24 items on a menu in a 60 plus item menu. The days of having 60 items on a menu should be gone. That's way too many. You're having to bring in way too much product, and you have to sell a lot in order to make sure that this product doesn't go in the garbage because it goes bad. Grilled items are on more than 80% of all menus. And so there's a Healthy Choices Act of 2017. And essentially, we now live with this. It's essentially showing that what's the calorie intake and how many grams of fat on these meals. So they're now in the majority of all chains and franchises. You'll see these on the menus. You don't need to do it for an independent restaurant, which is what you're all creating, but it is need to be done once you become a chain. So I think it's after you have 4 or 5 locations, you must include the caloric intake and fat on the menu or have it available. So this brings us to menu layout. So when it comes to your menu, it's also part of your concept. So how it's laid out, the pictures, the colors, everything that comes along with it, the style of writing, it all shows something about your concept. So if you go to a Jack Astor's and you look at their menu, it's bright, it's colorful, because it's supposed to be a family kind of centered place. And they kind of make fun of themselves. That's their attitude. Like, they have a lot of fun with it, and they poke fun at certain things, and it's just kind of cheap and cheerful. So, and then some higher end places are much more serious. They don't have graphics typically in it. They have a lot more design components and nice cursive writing and things that make it look up class. So here you can just see a couple different options. You know, this barbecue place and burger place seems like a pretty fun, easy place to go to. It's more than also just your menu concept. So there's also branding elements. So your menu might look a certain way, but so might your linens, your coasters, some of the design around there, your takeout items, your placemats. This gives you an idea that it's more than just your menu that shows the concept. It's all of the other things as well. Your menu covers, if you have tablets, what do they look like? So if you're bringing tablets to the table, if you're ordering online, what does that look like? Business cards. These are all things that we just have to understand that while we talk about menu design, it's a little bit bigger picture than that. Where you place your menu items have a huge effect on the sales of each individual item. Whereas you can literally move a menu item down 2 or 3 spots and you'll sell a lot less of it. And depending on what your menu items are and the ones you want to sell, you should highlight them or put them in a specific order. So a single panel menu is a single page. It's typically used to present limited menu items and special selections. It focuses the guest's attention. It's easy to handle and move around, and it's built for quick decisions. And this is typically how the eye flow goes for a single panel menu. So you start in the center, then you move up to where the appetizer area is, and then you move back down. So people have done this literally sitting there and watching people's eye movement when they read something. Same thing with bookstores. Bookstores do this all the time too, where someone picks up a book and they say, okay, what do they read first? They look at the front, they turn the back, they open the front page. Some go to the very last page and they want to read how the story ends. They're crazy people, but they have an idea of exactly, okay, I have 2 or 3 different areas that I need to ensure that I can grab the reader's attention and want them to purchase this book. Same thing with the menu. The classic 2 panel, so 2 pages, it's the most popular. It forces you to have a balance of appetizers and entrees. It's better suited to still a smaller menu, and it really is 3 panels because you have the back cover as well, and you can feature specials in boxes to draw attention. So when you have a 2-page menu, often the front, so if this 3 and 4 page were to close, you would not have anything on it. That's where your graphics go, or the name of your brand or concept. When you open your menu, most people look to see what their entree is going to be first. Typically what happens is that you think about your entree, what you're going to have for dinner, and then you look for an appetizer, and not the other way around, which is why appetizers are always on the entree dinner menus. So you start with number 1, and they usually work their way up, go over to where the starters, appetizers, soup, salads, all that stuff typically belong, and then they'll go back to the bottom right and see what they missed, or see if they're missing some sort of items. So when I look at a 2-page menu, I would often say entrees, most popular, second tier entrees, maybe smaller options, soups, salads, vegetarian options, not soup, salads, vegetarian options, starters, soups, salads, and then over here might be all of your add-ons. So sides of vegetables or starches or sauces that they can also put on. If you want to get away from having a dessert menu, I suppose you could put it there or on the back of this menu, but typically they work better with just your own independent menu for desserts. And then you have a 3-panel, which actually acts more like 5, but they call it a 3-panel. It's likely a very big menu. Now this is not the only ways you can do it. You can go larger. So if you've gone to like a Boston Pizza, I think their menus are like 8 pages. Like it's a ridiculous amount. Very graphic heavy. There's a picture of every single meal for the most part that you are going to order on that, which is great for some people because they know what they're getting. But the only problem with taking pictures, and we will talk about that later, is that if you take a picture of an item, that's what you expect. So when you think about a Big Mac and you order at McDonald's and you're looking at the picture of it and it looks beautiful, and then it comes and it's squished and the pickles are falling off and the cheese is melted on the other side of it, and it's just like, it doesn't look like the picture. Fast food can kind of get away with that. When it comes to like a sit-down casual dining environment, you want what you're ordering. You want it to look exactly like the picture. So you are handcuffed to ensure that the quality is always that good. So what the 3-panel menu looks like is this. So basically what happens is they look in the center page and then move over to the top right. Then they go back to the first page: appetizers, starters, shareables, soups, salads, and then they work their way over. So again, your most popular or most profitable items should be located in this 1 and 2 as main entrees. 3 and 4 will be all your starters, soups, salads, everything else. And 5, 6, 7 could be your either less popular, not as profit-driven menu items. So seafood, as an example, we don't make a lot of money off, especially like lobsters and crabs and things like that, because it's just so expensive to buy and people don't want to pay that price. So sometimes the food cost is really high in those items, but they still want to have it on their menu because it says something about their concept. So they might put those in these spots because we don't make a ton, but we want to make sure we have them. Same thing with vegetarian dishes. Usually you don't make a ton of money off those because people don't want to pay the same amount for no protein versus a protein dish. So you might have those there as well. And then also your add-ons. So it gives you an idea of 3 different menu layouts, but they can look much different. They can be larger than that. They could be one single page, which is like a placemat style, like a big landscape style. It's up to you. So some of the tips and tricks to have the customer order what you want them to is that in a list of items, so you think of a list of 5, 6, or 10 things, the first 1 or 2 and the last one in the list are the most frequently ordered. Okay, so if you have a list of 4 things, it's pretty good because the first few and the last usually get picked. You don't lose items in there, or the customer doesn't skim over them. If you have a long list of like 10 or 15 items, the first few, maybe the last 2 are the ones that they're going to really remember or spend the most time reading. So ensure that you don't have long lists. And if you do have a long list, you can highlight and break that list apart. So using shading, icons, graphics, you can put boxes around things, you can put a picture in there just to break up those long lists. Popular items in the middle, profitable items on the top and bottom. So when we say popular items in the middle, things that we know that people always want, right? So we put chicken wings. Let's say you have a list of starters and wings are on them. We're going to put chicken wings and the spinach dip or something like that in the middle because people always order it. They know they like it. We're not trying to push that item as something we want to sell unless it's very profitable. In the first few items and the last, you should include all of your most profitable items that you can because we want to encourage people to order the food that makes us the most. And as I said, you can shade or use icons and graphics, things like this these tools to highlight specific items. Make sure you're mobile friendly. So you can have digital board or feature boards inside the restaurant. Almost everyone opens up the menu from online, and it should look just as good or better than the in-person menu. So ensuring you have a mobile friendly or digital friendly menu is important. And then also offer different portion sizes. So lunch or dinner versus a starter or an entree. So I want to be able to get a salad as an entree, but also maybe get a smaller portion of that salad as an upcharge on my meal as an accompaniment or as a starter. And that works great. And then what the CAG has done and done very well with this is their classic dinners, which is they get bread, they get a Caesar salad to start, a Caesar or house salad, up to them. They get a meal, and then they also get a dessert. So what GDR does is it's kind of like a packaged meal. Basically what happens is that some of those people, maybe 50% of them would have already ordered a salad, or 50% of them might have gotten a dessert. But when you package it, you ensure that 100% of those people are now for sure getting a salad and a dessert. And then this is just a menu. It gives you an idea of what maybe it could look like. They have lots of visuals and nothing really more than 4 to a list. So when you think about your own menu, it might look something like this, right? They have some of their beverages on it. Typically, I say don't include non-alcoholic beverages on your menu. Everyone knows that you have pop, and they'll ask you what you have. You don't typically need that unless you're doing like smoothies or something unique that they're assuming they don't know that you have. So, iced tea, chocolate milk, Coke, Pepsi, all that, just leave off. Coffee, tea, leave off. We know you have that. We'll just ask for it. But if you have some cool smoothies or non-alcoholic drinks or milkshakes, sure, you can put those on. You can see they only have 4 per list. Every now and then they put a little spicy hot pepper or a little add-on, and they've also changed a lot of their text. So you'll see that the way that they have the title of it is not the same as what they have for their descriptors, and also is not the same as their larger headings. So it's usually 3 different types of text, but we'll talk about that. So it's menu psychology is the power of print and imagery in menus. So this was coined in a book called Menu Psychology, and it's basically the way that we design things make people feel a different way. So choosing what type of print or text can depict what kind of food or the level of quality of food that you are serving. So when you think about text, you look at this. So choosing what type of print or text can really help depict it. So thinking about different styles, including color, which one would you choose for, let's say, a diner? So this is a diner, and we want to sell an old-fashioned hamburger. And I typically always ask the class, and I say, look at these 7 different ways that I've spelt it. Which one makes sense? No one picks this one because it's too plain. Nobody picks this one because it's too big and blocky. A couple people think this one and this one is okay because of the style of the writing. This one's a little too old-timey for a diner style place. A few people look at this one and say that's nice, and the red one they like because red and diners kind of go hand in hand for some reason. But by far, the majority of people pick this old-fashioned hamburger right here. It's kind of reminiscent of that old diner, drive-in diner feel. It has enough cursive or personality in the text to kind of show that old-fashioned style without being hard to read. So this is the number one that everyone usually chooses. The way that we ensure that everyone can read and understand what's happening is that we try not to go lower than a 12-point font. And we try to stick to 3 different types of fonts. One's for headings, one's for the menu item, and one's for the descriptors. So Appetizer, easy to read, here we go, because the headings don't need to be sexy or eye-drawing necessarily. They just need to be informative. So Appetizers, done. Smoked bacon quesadillas, it's bolded, it's a different text, and they have the price for it here as well, $10. And then the descriptors is usually in italics or a bit more of a cursive. And by cursive, I just mean it has more personality. It's a little bit more curved and swoopy, I guess you want to call it. And the descriptors usually have that more of a italics to it. So then they say it's the smoked bacon quesadillas, slow smoked brisket, jack and cheddar cheese, pico de gallo, ancho sour cream, and avocado. Okay? They don't mention the fact that it's in a 2 big tortillas because that's not really a selling aspect. People know what a quesadilla is, right? So they're talking about the money first, and by money I mean the most expensive item is the beef brisket, and then, or the bacon brisket, and then it's the jack and cheddar cheese, pico de gallo, and everything else. So reader's preferences is 12, 13, or 14 point main, 8, 9, or 10 point secondary, which I'll show you. So this would be 14 on a menu. The secondary could be the descriptors. So I'll go down to 10. And single type size can be monotonous. So changing those types of text. So this one is looking different than this one will really help you as well. Headings are titles and course names, which divide different categories. Menu items are the individual dish names, and they should have a little bit of more of a sexiness and marketing appeal put on it. And then the copy, what we call, is the written description of each menu item. Ensuring you have the right amount of space makes sense, but just ensure you don't have too much blank space or white space, okay? So blank space may seem empty, but it actually makes it easier for readers to focus. So you don't want something like this because it's very hard to read, and most people wouldn't read this whole thing. Something like this, well, now I know exactly what I'm reading, although it's still a little blank. When you're using photo icons and pictures, please ensure that while you can use this, you are basically giving them a promise that all of the food that you are showing on a picture is how that food will come out to be served to them. So if you can't guarantee that your kitchen can replicate this every single time to look like this, then don't do it. Desserts typically need a picture, or many of them do. Most steaks and stuff, they don't do it, just because, if I order a medium rare steak or a well done steak, those are going to look completely different. Same thing with like prime rib, because you don't know how the cut is going to look. So desserts, they often have some pictures on a separate dessert menu, but I'd limit your actual pictures of food as much as possible. As an idea, here's Big Mac. This is what they advertise, and this is the actual burger at its most attractive angle. And like I said, this thing is perfectly done. Now, what they often do for these pictures is that they have different paints and sprays. They'll take a blowtorch and blowtorch just the ends of the meat and not actually cook it. And that way it looks bigger and juicier than it actually is. They do a lot of weird stuff to make it look delicious. This is the Burger King Whopper. As you can see, it does not look anything like it. This is Taco Bell. So when you order Taco Bell, this is what you expect, and this is what you get. So it just gives you a really good idea of what to be careful for. So you can use some photos that are not actual photos of food, but they are more just an artist's interpretation. So we know our burger's not going to look like this black and white burger, or this piece of pizza, or this cone of fries, and that's okay. Basically what we're saying, we have fries, we have burgers, we have pizza, you should order some. So you can use this kind of graphic, which is a much safer option. And when it comes to pricing, we got to think of a couple things. What kind of place are you? Are you a high-end place, or are you a value place, so cheap? If you are a value place, so that's typically what we call our limited service or quick service restaurants. It's fast food for the most part. You go and you get your meal, and it's $10.99 or $8.99. And they use the 99 cents because $8.99 for some people feels like it's less than $9. But we don't even have cents anymore. Like, there's no pennies in Canada. So it doesn't even matter. We always round out. So most nicer restaurants, and none of you are going to be doing a fast food restaurant, you will be showing prices without the 99 or 95 cents. It's just not really the way to go. If you were doing something like a value place, sure, not a problem. You sell your Tim Hortons, yeah, you sell coffee for $1.99 because it seems a little bit less expensive than $2. Often they put a dollar sign in, and it's pretty much the worst symbol that you can use. It's reminding people that things cost money, and we're not here to remind them they're spending money. We just want them to spend money. So they're going to spend money. Don't remind them about it. I already talked about how $9.99 may look cheaper, but it also doesn't portray any quality. So just use that $10 amount. Price formats that end in 9 usually do not communicate value. This is like dollar store stuff. If you need to use cents, you can use 95 cents, or you can go, it's $9.50 or $10 or $10.50 or $11.25. You can do that if you feel that you don't want to bring it up a full dollar, so you don't need to stick at those dollar points. You want to draw some more money. So let's say it's a dessert where, at $6, you feel like you're giving it away a little cheap. At $7, you feel like you're asking too much for it. So $6.50 is okay. And then, if you put those 25-cent things in there, sometimes it can invoke nostalgia. And nostalgia is a huge selling component for a lot of people. Things that remind us of better times or simpler times or easy times. And it could be cartoons that you grew up watching, which is why a lot of these like 50s diners are really popular. It could be just a barbecue or a corn roast or any kind of thing that you had as a child that brings back nostalgia. For many of you international students, simple meals that you grew up eating and seeing them in restaurants nowadays may bring back that feeling of when you had it with your mother or your parents or your larger family, and you'll order it again. How we align prices, so in a menu, we try not to use just a single column like you would do in an Excel sheet. And the reason that we do that is because some people will just look through it and find the least expensive or the most expensive and automatically rule them out, right? I don't want the cheapest dish because that says I'm cheap and it's more of what it says about me. I don't want the most expensive stuff because I'm not here to celebrate and I'm trying to watch what I'm spending. So when we put it in a list, you're doing them a favor. Don't do that. We can also try to get rid of the zeros. So we know it's $14. We don't need to put the zeros after the dollar amount. We don't even need to put the dollar amount. And you can just say it's 14. Now, some people feel like 14, it feels incomplete. So if you want, you can put a period or a dash after it or before it. And that will let people know that it is $14 and it's not a typo or in a weird spot. And then that comes to the menu description. So we know how to do our pricing. We know that we're going to choose 3 different texts or types of text to either have our headings, our actual menu item title, or our descriptors. So in our descriptors, what kind of words do we use? So usually we try to limit it to about 10 words or fewer. You want to have some room for imagination. So yes, you will be telling them what the main ingredients are, but you also want to give them some more information as well. So it could be the cooking process. It could be how the stuff was purchased or raised. So if it's grass-fed Alberta beef, that could be something that would be a selling point. So it has nothing to do with how it's cooked, but we know that the animal was raised on eating grass, and it's from Alberta, which is Canadian or local. And it could be locally sourced or humanely, you don't want to talk about slaughtered, but it could be just like locally sourced stuff, and people want to know that as well. And you can charge more if you say your ingredients are locally sourced, because people can respect that and be like, I get that. You're not buying from the big consumer for the cheapest amount. You're buying from the small guy, and you just have to pay a little bit more. I'm okay as a consumer paying you more because of that. And then you can also talk about how things are cooked. So you don't want to say that your calamari is fried necessarily, or your chicken fingers are fried. We know that. We know that you drop it in a big vat of oil and it's unhealthy, but it's delicious. But what you could say is that it's hand battered, right? So it's time and care has been put into this specific menu item, and it's going to be delicious. You can say marinated, roasted, cooked in our wood-fired oven. These all have great pieces, are a lot more allure, and it's a little bit sexier than saying, I put it in the oven for 30 minutes at 350. So these are some of the things of how your descriptive copy can include. So it could be the method of preparation. You want to include all the essential or main ingredients, specifically those that cost a lot of money. So it's usually protein then dairy are the first two. So if it's a chicken and it has like a blue cheese crumble, those are kind of the first things that you'll be talking about. How it's served or what comes with it. So if it's like a fajita dish that comes out on a cast iron pan that's 600 Fahrenheit and it's hot and it's going to be sizzling, then you want to make sure they know about that. Quality claims such as grades or freshness. So again, locally sourced, or it could be USDA Prime or AAA Canadian beef. These have certain grades to them, or it could be where it's from. So variety or geographic origin, right? So it could be like locally sourced Ontario duck, or it could be Alberta beef. What also comes with the entree? So in your menu somewhere, if you are selling a bunch of steaks or pieces of chicken or ribs or whatever it might be, you don't want the customer to ask you, well, what does it come with? This should be highlighted somewhere on that menu very easily for them to understand. So this is not a question you want to hear. The copy should include, so the copy or descriptors should include preparation methods and accompaniments. And you can also include, like, if you have 6 dishes and they all come with, as a common accompaniment, it's a starch and a seasonal veg, then put that somewhere so they know. So it could be right under the titles where you say these are all entrees. All entrees come with blank and blank. And then they can upcharge for different options. So instead of French fries and some vegetables, they want sweet potato fries or a twice baked potato or something along those lines. And use keywords. So as an example, this house banana split is sweet bananas with warm chocolate cake and vanilla ice cream. Nothing wrong with that. It sounds like a great banana split, but we can make it a little bit nicer. So now this is a Tahitian banana split with caramelized bananas and a molten dark chocolate cake and homespun Tahitian vanilla ice cream. So the only thing that's Tahitian about this whole thing is that we bought Tahitian vanilla ice cream to put on it, but now it has found its way into the actual title of the menu item because it sounds that much more sexy. These are some descriptive words. There are a million. You look up synonyms, and I'm sure you all know how to do that. You look up some synonyms, and instead of caramelized, it could be, well, you don't want to use scorched or burnt. But let's look up simmered. So if you want simmered or you want something similar, seethed, rumbled, festered, don't use that one. Or jumbo shrimp, it could be, oversized, huge, gigantic. Use synonyms, I can't say this word, thesaurus, and really get in there and find your descriptive words that make mouths water. Boilerplate information. So somewhere on your menu, you do need some more information, specifically if you're going to print some of these menus as maybe takeout or they're going to be online. So you might want your address, your telephone, the hours of operation, not credit cards. Maybe if you want to say you accept all credit cards, maybe you're accepting Bitcoin. I don't know. If you have special services, catering or private parties, your menu must have at least a website and a telephone number. You don't necessarily need to have your hours of operation or any of this other information. If you have room for it, great. Don't squeeze it in and make your menu look too busy. And the last thing I want to talk about is color. So where do you use color on your menu? Typically, people just try to pick no more than 3 colors to use on their menu. So if you're having a fancy menu, it might be gold and silver and maybe more of a primary color with that. So maybe a bit of green in some places. But for the most part, even if we look at Georgian College, we're basically white, blue, and some green for all of our I'm not wearing anything Georgian right now. For all of our logoing. But there's also, some other colors every now and then they pull in. But for the most part, everything has a brand. Coca-Cola is white and red. You never see black. The Coca-Cola, it's either written in red or it's written in white surrounded by red. So everything has a brand. Your concept should have a brand, and the colors that you choose should be part of that brand. You can also put colors in a smaller fashion if something is spicy or vegetarian or healthy choice. You can use that red and green, or use some sort of symbol. So the primary and recency theory is basically saying that people, our brains are really complex things. And what we do is that we often don't read until we have a reason to read something. So we'll scan in the same way you do it on your cell phones when you're scanning through Instagram or TikTok or whatever. You wait till your eyes catch something. So it's an eye magnet, we call it. It's an attention getter, and then you stop and read. So same thing with a menu. We scan it to find something that our brain will say, oh, that might be interesting. Stop. Then we stop and we'll read. These eye magnets are things that will do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a symbol, but a lot of them that we use. It could also be just maybe a different color. It could be a different way that something is written. It could be a box. But it's basically the primacy and recency theory is the scan technique the brain uses to find something it's interested in, and then it stops. Because our brains are bombarded by hundreds, if not thousands, of marketing ads in a day. You know, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on TV, half the time you could watch whatever the 5 or 6 commercials are on a commercial break. And if I stopped it at that last commercial and I say, okay, what was the last commercials about? You might not remember any of them, or maybe just the one. So things like jingles and things like that branding or an icon, that's how we remember things. So that's the last part of this particular lecture, the primacy and recency theory. Test question. And that is week 3 for menu and restaurant design, or menu and facility design. They have 2 names. Please, thank you for reading that or watching this video. The assignment 3, assignment 2, which is all about concept creation, will be delivered to you on the Friday class. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.